Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Sunday TalkBack via the new channel. Some people may or may not be aware of the new broadcast that we have going on over here, the new collaboration with the Merc. I'm just waiting for my co-hosts. Chosen one shall be joining the threshold. So give me a second here. Let me alert the necessary parties. Then we'll get the games going. Let's see, where is this chap? Let me see where this chap is. Okay. Anyway, guys, it's been a big week. A lot of stuff's been going down. I mean, as far as trailers and stuff are concerned. And, speaking of which, and this is something that I talked about at length in the last, in the epic 4-hour the epic marathon that we had last time, talking about obviously the anticipation for Rise of Skywalker, but I'm waiting for my guest to come in before I fully get going. That being said, I do want to touch on a few things. Hold on, he's saying he's late. Okay. I do want to touch on a few things. So we'll be covering a few topics. I am going to be talking about Matrix 4 predictions. And this is going to be very vague in the sense that, there isn't a lot of information known about it, but because in my view, Matrix was such a huge cultural event, and the fact that Keanu Reeves is obviously having a major resurgence, I think that was a topic that, even though it's not a trending topic right now, I think it's a topic that I want to touch on. We're also going to be talking about the James Bond No Time to Die trailer that was released this week. We will also be talking about the Black Widow trailer that was released this week as well, and thoughts and opinions relating to that film and what's going to be happening with that. Obviously, as far as the app is concerned. Oh, in fact, look, before anything else, if you're new here, you know what you got to do. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you can be alerted. This is every Sunday that we'll be broadcasting 9 p.m. UK. That's 5 p.m. Eastern, and that's 1 p.m. Pacific, I believe it is. So this will be the regular settled time that we'll be doing the Curator Report talkback on Sundays. Let me actually just check, because I'm doing a multi-stream here. I want to make sure that this is actually broadcasting to all relevant stations. Give me a moment. Give me a moment, guys. Let me get over there. Yes, it is actually working. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Let me do another check and see if this is working as well. Fantastic, guys. This is excellent. This is new technology. Simulcasting to 2 areas. So obviously, look, if you're a listener on TalkBack, this is just to let you know that this is where the Merc resides these days. Okay. If you are a Curator Report listener, that you've listened to the first broadcast that we did, the epic session that we did with the main man Jody from Jody's Corner. If anybody was from that session, 9 p.m. as I said is going to be the time. 9 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'll be throwing that on the screen in due course. As I said, those are the topics. I actually was hoping to be talking about The Mandalorian today as well, because we're doing episode by episode. Curator, the platform, is not a TV show platform, but it's just that because Mandalorian is Star Wars, and I'm such a big Star Wars guy. I feel that it was necessary for me to make an exception for this particular product. But I'm just saying that in general, the platform, if you've not downloaded it, make sure that you've downloaded the wonderful application that the Merc himself endorses, for fans all around fandom. Like, make sure you get your hands on that piece of artillery over there. Anti-troll, anti-fake reviews. You control the game. You control what you see, the reviews you see. So, definitely get your hands on your paws on that as soon as possible. Okay, guys. So, I think first of all, what I would like to get into before Chosen comes, because he's actually seen episode 5 and I have not seen episode 5 of The Mandalorian because I was having some technical difficulties setting up this show. So, that sort of ate up my time because I was hoping I was going to be able to watch the episode prior to getting on the game and getting on here and talking about the talk. Unfortunately, I have not. So it will be a general overview of where The Mandalorian sits right now. We will, of course, as usual, and I think, listen, for every show now, because we've only got one more Sunday SmackDown before the Rise of Skywalker hits the screens. I think it's particularly important that we always do a little section on the Star Wars situation of it all. As you can see, Star Wars is my guy, representing Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, been very disrespected, to be honest, and still pains me, so I feel like just in honor of the great master Skywalker, the Merc has to make a little time in each episode for talking about Star Wars. And obviously, listen, guys, there's a chat, here. Anybody who's got questions, things you want me to think about, talk about during the live broadcast, feel free to type that in. I'll throw it on screen if I feel it's particularly spicy, and we will go in that direction. All right, guys. So the first one I'm going to go into is actually James Bond. Now, I've actually said multiple times, sorry, guys, let me just hit my phone on mute. I've said multiple times for people who've been regular listeners to the Merc from back in the day in his former iteration on TalkBack that, I've never really been a Star Wars James Bond person. I just haven't, and this is from childhood. Like, I just never really got into the whole thing. I was never in. I watched them, of course, and the James Bond of my era was Roger Moore. Roger Moore was. I mean, the reality is that when I was born, Sean Connery was still James Bond, but the point at which I had a brain, like I could actually think and know what I was watching, and it was really Roger Moore, because Roger Moore was the James Bond from early 80s through the 80s to the 80s, because I think the 90s is when Timothy Dalton took over, when he did License to Kill. And I think that was like 89 or something, or 1990. So really for the bulk of the 80s, which is when I was a little kid, it was Roger Moore, and some of the really iconic James Bond, the Man with the Golden Gun, Moonraker I never liked. Octopussy was like, whatever. But he did a lot of Never Say Never Again. What was that? Was that Roger Moore? Or was that Sean Connery? I can't remember. Anyway, point is that was the guy that I'm most used to. Okay. And then we got Timothy Dalton, which the crazy thing about this? I never actually watched a Timothy Dalton James Bond. Like, he had The Living Daylights and License to Kill. And I think we owned License to Kill in my house. And I never actually watched it. And then there was Living Daylights, which I never even saw. So his entire era, and his era was very short-lived, I never actually saw it, which is pretty crazy, So I can't even really give an educated opinion on how Timothy Dalton sits in the whole James Bond sphere. That being said, just place this down here. That being said, I felt that Pierce Brosnan had a fantastic run. In my opinion, I might be a little bit biased because I actually met Pierce Brosnan, and he's a very nice guy. And you know what? People always say people are nice guys and all that sort of things. But he had a very good energy about him. You know, he was very friendly, had a conversation with the guy, you know, and he just seemed like a very nice person. So from that point, I guess I've been biased towards Pierce Brosnan because I'm like, wow, this guy's actually a pretty nice person. Like, you know, I've never met Sean Connery or Roger Moore, any of those other dudes. But I would still say that listen, his James Bond's GoldenEye to me, and I'm going to talk about what I feel is the best James Bond after this, but GoldenEye really was a resurgence of James Bond. Like James Bond, by the time GoldenEye came about, nobody was interested in James Bond anymore. Shout out to Martin Campbell because he's done it twice. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. GoldenEye was it's a classic. I remember when I watched GoldenEye on the plane. I actually remember it, and you see, this is the thing about impactful films. Like you remember what you were doing, where you were, or whatever, when you actually saw them. I remember exactly where I was when I watched GoldenEye. I was on the plane from going from to England, you know, and I just was like, you know what, whatever, I'll just put it on. And this film, you know, you have to think that at that point, the last James Bond was Timothy Dalton, which hadn't gone well. And James Bond, when Timothy Dalton came about, was trying to make it more grounded in a way because the Roger Moore movies had gotten so crazy and ridiculous. You know what I mean? So things were so messed up that you had a sort of clamor, like they were just trying to fix the whole franchise. So, in all honesty, okay, my co-host is here. Let me just bring him into the stream. Yeah, yeah. Good day.
Yeah, good day, sir.
Yes. I'm just doing the James Bond preamble. We're going to talk about. Have you seen the trailer?
I have not yet.
Okay. Look, you know what? I'm going to mute you. Watch the trailer. Okay.
Okay, all right,
Let me
got
mute
it.
you. All right. So, guys, Chosen One is going to watch the trailer. Then we're going to bring him back in because you know we can't be talking about this without actually seeing the footage. Um, so you know, I actually really felt that GoldenEye was incredible. Listen, the thing is that people take it for granted now. You have to think about the jump in quality and filmmaking and tone and action and stuff from GoldenEye to the Living Daylights or License to Kill or whatever the last film that we saw, and all the Roger Moore movies. Like this thing was, I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I was just James Bond had become a complete joke by that point. It was excellent. And this is in GoldenEye to this day still stands up. And the thing about GoldenEye is that GoldenEye today is actually most remembered for the video game that was made out of GoldenEye, which has become one of the greatest video games in history, especially on Nintendo 64, GoldenEye on Nintendo 64. Like that thing was the first person shooter that really, I mean, outside of Halo, obviously Halo was, but you have to remember that this thing came out before Halo. You know, Halo wasn't even on the cards when GoldenEye came out, and it had that four-way split screen, blase blase blah. You know, it was like a sort of monumental gaming situation that was also in tandem with the fact that they brought a seemingly dead franchise back to life. You know, anyway, so that happened, and I was like, okay, Pierce Brosnan really didn't bring me back, but that GoldenEye was amazing. I felt that James Bond after GoldenEye slipped back into the ridiculousness that you had with Roger Moore. And guys, you know, you can leave in the comments if you disagree with me, you know, but I kind of feel like the problem with the Pierce Brosnan movies after GoldenEye is that they just became, sometimes they were actually more ridiculous than some of the things that were happening in Roger Moore's movies, you know. And I think when movies become ridiculous and so ridiculous, what happens is that you have to keep topping it, and then it becomes a cartoon. It's like what's happening to Fast and the Furious, for example. It becomes a cartoon, and then it's very difficult for you to sustain that because you're like, why is anybody going to keep coming back? what are you next going to be doing? People flying? I mean, which they did have. So I think, in my opinion, that the reason why the James Bond Pierce Brosnan thing sort of just sort of died, and because he really wanted to stay, I don't think he wanted to leave. I think it sort of died because they were like, wow, you know what, we're gonna have to like rewrite the whole script on this situation in order for us to get back in the game. Let me see if Chosen is back. Give me a sec. Chosen, have you seen it?
I'm watching it now.
You haven't?
I'm watching it now. It's almost done.
Okay. All right. So anyway, it was a really crazy time, and I was done. And again, I'm not even a James Bond guy. Then I heard that they were casting.
Okay, I watched it. That was a good trailer.
You've seen it?
Yeah. My bad. Go ahead. I didn't.
All right. Wait a minute. You said it's good?
Yes, I think it's very good. It looks great.
All right. Well, we'll have a chat. But I mean, look, this is my pre-talk. I just wanted to get your initial reaction, but this is my pre-talk. Hey guys in the whoever is listening, whichever one of you guys have actually seen the trailer, I want to hear your thoughts. You can type it into the thing if you want. I want to see what people are thinking. Anyway, so I'm just saying that basically, look, by the time they announced Daniel Craig, I actually thought that was a very, very good casting decision, because I already knew about him from other films, and I'd just seen Layer Cake like a year before that, or 6 months before they announced it. So, and if you guys haven't seen Layer Cake is basically him auditioning for James Bond. Like it's you watch the movie and you're like, okay, he's basically like it's a very similar thing, even though it's not a secret agent and it's to do with gangsters in England and all that sort of stuff. It was, let's see, which trailer is that? Just started watching now, the Bond trailer. Okay, so Valvena is asking, Valvena, we're talking about the James Bond trailer, No Time to Die. Black Widow is coming up later in the segment, okay?
Oh, is that Bat Val? Get in here, man.
What?
That's a Bat Val.
Is it Bat Val?
Yeah.
Does he have a mic?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if he does, then maybe I can throw him in here.
Sure
Let's see what Horrid Film says. Okay, Horrid Film. Let's see what he's saying. Horrid Film says, I really liked Dalton's Living Daylights, and especially License to Kill. I felt they were ahead of their time. They tried to do what Daniel Craig ended up doing. You know, this guy makes some good points, because I actually really agree with that. It's weird. It's like Timothy Dalton, I think, was ahead of his time. The problem that people had with those two movies, and I didn't even really watch them fully. I had one of them. Like I said, I had License to Kill in the house, and I just used to watch, and I'm like, I was only like 10 years old or 11. I was like 10 or 9. And I was like, man, this is boring, man. You know, I was like, you know what? It just felt so serious, so melancholy. The guy James Bond now had feelings and like emotions, and I was like, like I don't even want to watch this. The truth is, when you really reflect on it, that is sort of the direction that they went in when Daniel Craig started doing James Bond. Like, basically the same. It's just a different actor and a different era, but they were 20 years ahead of their time. Like almost 20 years, 17, 15 years ahead of their time, you know? Anyway, point I'm making is that they cast Daniel Craig, and I was like, you know what, this is a very, very, very good idea, you know, because if anybody had seen what do they call it, Layer Cake, they would have understood why. What were your thoughts, Chosen, when they cast Daniel Craig as James Bond?
I think it was, again, I should preface my comments by saying I'm not really a James Bond fan.
Neither am I.
I've seen the films, I've enjoyed some. But when he was cast, it was so different from, because I grew up with Brosnan, you know? So that sort of radical shift, mainly in look, and also, I guess, swag. He has a different swag about him. I think we can agree on that. It's just it was like, why, you know? It's like it was just so different, you know. and I honestly didn't know what to make of it. So I was just sort of completely in the dark as far as what he would do and what they were going for. But then I saw Casino Royale, and I really liked that movie. One of my favorite directors, or he was one of my favorite directors when he had his head on straight, anyway. But you know, I don't know. I just didn't know what he was going to give us. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
You know what, man? I'm glad that you said that because that's where I was going next. Listen, quite honestly, Casino Royale to me is the best ever James Bond movie.
Mm,
That film is excellent. That film, I watched that movie now. I'm like, my days, man. Even if it was not a James Bond movie, he did every mark is hits, every element that you'd want out of an action movie of that kind, like an espionage, cool, exotic locations, good actions, good characters,
suspense
emotion.
driven.
Say what?
Suspense driven.
Suspense. Listen, it was phenomenal. A
Yep.
film. I still feel to this day, Skyfall is not better than Casino Royale.
No, no, no.
Spectre definitely isn't better than Casino Royale. There is no movie he's done since then that is better than that movie. And I said, to me, because people will be like, "Oh my God, how can you say that? What about GoldenEye? What about Doctor No?" I'm like, listen, I think obviously Sean Connery, in my opinion, was the best James Bond. To me, people would dispute that. That's fine. However, Casino Royale is the best James Bond movie. It's just
Mm,
it was like it took all the elements of what is good about Daniel Craig's performance and style and married that with like all what I believe are the things that make James Bond unique, the things that Bourne can't do, you know? So, for example, what action movie do you know that stops midway to have like a 25-minute, 20-minute, or whatever poker game scene, which still didn't feel like it had stopped the movie? That whole section was an entire thing, and it was like a mini movie in and of itself,
mm,
you know? And and the only kind of character that you could really accept that from in a major action movie is James Bond, because it sort of fits in with what James Bond is and so on and so forth. So that thing was excellent. I then went on and I said, okay, you know, things, and like I said, Skyfall to me, what was the next one? Quantum of Solace. I hate it. Absolutely hated that. I couldn't stand that film, you know. Um, so I don't even, when I even think of the Daniel Craig movies, I don't even remember that Quantum of Solace came out. Do you even remember what happened in the movie?
no, no,
I don't
no.
even remember what the.
And that's the thing. I don't remember enough to hate it. I just know that I just don't remember enough about it to even give it a second thought. So I just it really failed overall. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I remember watching it and getting to the end and not really knowing what had happened in the movie. Like I was
Yep.
like, I'm not sure what just happened. It just anyway. So that movie just disappeared, and then you had Skyfall, which again, Skyfall was very very good. It was really good.
Mm,
I think it was always going to be difficult for Skyfall to beat Casino Royale to me. I didn't think Casino Royale could be topped, and I didn't think Skyfall did top it. But I was actually impressed by the fact that it was a different director. Obviously, it wasn't Martin Campbell. And let me just put a little respect on Martin Campbell's name. Martin Campbell has resurrected James Bond twice. He's the one
mm,
who launched Pierce Brosnan's James Bond with GoldenEye that I've already talked about. To me, is one of the best James Bond movies. And then he came back and then delivered the best James Bond movie with Casino Royale. So,
mhm.
guys,
Yeah.
we have to put some respect on Martin Campbell, regardless of what you
Oh,
think.
for sure.
Anyway, Skyfall, excellent. What were your thoughts on Skyfall?
um, I mean, obviously it's a step up from Quantum, but again, I'm not. I to watch those films just to actually just enjoy them. I don't like to just enjoy the. You have films that you don't really have to think much through. You just sit down for like just entertainment purposes. You don't need to take anything away from the story, and you know, as far as finer points or things, it's just I don't do that, or my mind isn't in that mode when I go and watch a James Bond film. So it's going to be difficult for me to get into details, but I do remember I enjoyed that film. But again, I always go back to Casino Royale. I mean, that's just that's just
Yeah, no.
that's just it for me.
And you know what's so funny? You know how you talk about remembering things. You know that
Mhm.
Casino Royale, I remember so much about the movie. I
Yep,
remember a lot of the
yep,
scenes. I remember what happened. I remember the
mhm,
plots. I remember that's how you know the movie's good. It's
yep,
like
yep.
I really remember a hell of a lot about a movie that I
Mhm,
saw almost 10 years ago, you know,
yep.
which is a testament to a quality action film. Anyway, Spectre, I didn't like at all. At all.
Which
I
one was
mean,
that?
Spectre, the last one.
Oh, I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, I didn't like that one at all. Like I was very disappointed because I thought Skyfall was sort of setting up, an acceleration of this anyway, I didn't like it. So then we get to No Time to Die. Okay. We're going to talk about the trailer first, then we're going to talk about thoughts on the overall film and thoughts of what's going to be happening in it. But let's just talk about the trailer. I watched the trailer and I was underwhelmed. You?
Hmm. Now when you say underwhelmed, you're talking about in terms of, because let's just be honest, okay? And I think um, I know you well enough to kind of see where you're going, or give you a bit of tough love here. You're not going to get Casino Royale again, okay? So you need to you need to get that out of your mind, or that's just not coming for you this Christmas. But when you say you were underwhelmed, you're talking about in terms of story, correct?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I was like, I will explain why, but keep carry on, keep going. I'll tell you why.
if that's where you're going, I would have to say I agree with you. But it's one of those things where with this, and I hate to say this, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I am probably going to have to wait and see, because that trailer did everything that a trailer's supposed to do, if that makes sense. But if it just depends on the story, and I think you get enough in there, or the trailer hints at enough to pretty much tell the observant person that, hey, you're not really going to get anything new here. So that's sort of my worry. um, but I think from the way that they cut some of those scenes and some of the transitions between them, and I'm looking at, I don't know if they were in a club or some sort of, they got the spotlight on Bond, and they've got that. Look, they've got some nice eye candy in that trailer. So it's enough to get me in there to watch it. But at the same time, I am, even though I cannot predict precisely what the story is, but I think I've seen enough to know um, where they're going with some things. So I don't know.
All
We'll
right.
see.
Well, Valvena says Bond was always a character that should have been written by Milius, who wrote masculine screenplays, and directed by Oliver Stone or De Palma. Oliver Stone had written Scarface, and De Palma had directed that. You know, I don't agree. I don't agree because Milius, who did Conan, obviously. What else did he do? Did he do what else did he do? He did a couple of things.
uh,
He did Conan, he did I can't remember. Oh my goodness, man. Didn't he did a
I mean,
couple of Schwarzenegger
I
movies.
think I think I'm sort of with Valvena on this.
I'm gonna
Not
tell you
not
why.
not well, not fully. I get what he means
I
by
know
Bond. Go
okay.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I feel like no, you finish. Go, go, go.
No, I think that there has to be, because you have masculine traits and then you have feminine traits. There's a level of finesse that I think, because he's well dressed. You need that nice little balance. Um, I don't think you'll get that if you go that route with that director. something will be missing, and I don't think I know enough about Bond to precisely articulate what that is. But again, we've talked about this before, how certain people are good for certain things. I don't know if that would be, even though I understand where he's coming from, I don't know if that would be a wise choice.
Right. Because in all honesty, I actually agree. I agree with what you're saying. Look, James Bond is a quintessentially British English character that there's a certain level of finesse that's required that doesn't come through with the typical American filmmaker. Like they just don't. There is no American character that has ever been created that is anything like what James Bond needs to be. It just isn't in the culture. The James Bond person, it's a very difficult character to do correctly because he's not a prince, he's not a lord, but he's of that sort of world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like and I know those sorts of guys. It's like I went to school with those sorts of guys. Like I know the kind of person this person is, and you need to really know them to write it correctly because they are like thugs, but they're like aristocratic thugs. They're still they're the kind of people who are going to have a fight in a pub. They're going to have a fight in a bar or whatever. But at the same time, they ride on yachts and have Aston Martins and play polo on the weekend and go to the regattas. Like these people, they do exist. Like people who are like this, who then go out and get drunk on a weekend and have a fight on the streets, because they think daddy is going to pay off the police bill or whatever if they get into trouble. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's a very particular, and that's sort of the world that James Bond is sort of coming from. It's not like he's there now, but like that's how he would have grown up, like in that sort of privilege, right? And for that reason, which goes back to what you said, there is a certain level of sophistication that isn't just the milious, brutish, masculine, commando born thing. It's not that, That being said, looking at the trailer, I was like, obviously, look, a lot has been said about the female Bond or female 007 who took over from him when he disappeared. The problem that I have with this is that there's actually a number of problems, but one of them is the fact that I feel like that storyline has already been done before. Because if you remember, in Skyfall, he also disappeared. And they had to go and get him. You remember that?
Yep. Yep.
And I was like, that was the same situation. And they went to find him and bring him back in because there was this job that they needed him to do because of the Bardem character and the connection to MI6 and all that sort of stuff. And I was just like, when I saw the trailer for this, I'm like, well, we've actually literally already been there. Because if you think about the storyline in Skyfall, right, there was that pivotal scene at the beginning with M. Is it M or Q? M. No, Miss Moneypenny, sorry. Who they're driving and then she ends up to taking that shot, which she shoots James Bond and then they think that he's dead. You remember? And then he falls off the bridge and then he disappears. And then we've got the scene in the trailer for this where he's driving with that lady. And then obviously he makes some kind of decision. He jumps off a bridge with that rope. And I'm just like, it just looks like you're sort of retreading territory that we've already. Am I wrong?
I mean,
because it just feels like the same essential basic story. Like, he's James Bond. Is he dead? He's retired. He's old. I mean, I guess the difference now is that they've actually replaced him with somebody else, and again, we'll get into that because that's a question I would also want to ask about a lot being said about the fact that it's a woman and they're trying to make James Bond female and blah blah blah. I want to talk about that or just put it to the floor. But anyway, sorry. Tell me what you think about whether we're retreading.
I mean, I don't know. Who would be her equivalent in Skyfall?
Her equivalent in Skyfall. When you say her, you mean the new James Bond?
Correct. Yep.
No, there isn't one. That is the only change. The change is that they actually replaced him. In the original one, he didn't get replaced.
Okay, but when you say we've sort of, again, maybe didn't understand what you were talking about, but basically when you went into, they're obviously having a female James Bond, and you alluded to the fact that we've sort of already done this. You mean the actual bringing back up Bond as opposed to?
Oh yeah, no. That part we haven't done. That's a different topic. Area of the topic. I mean,
Okay.
what we've already done is the idea that James Bond has disappeared.
Yep.
They have to now go and find him and convince him to come back. And then he comes back and things have moved on and he has to reacclimatize to the new way that the MI6 is being run. That is exactly what happened in Skyfall. Like, he'd been gone. They thought he was dead. Then they bring him back and there's a new Q who's now a young kid. They have all these new gadgets and he has to sort of get used to. That's the same basic formula. It's the same thing, So when I looked at this, I'm like, it's the same thing. It's like all they've done is just shift the specifics, but the essential framework is the same. All right. Valvena says has another comment here. Let me bring him in again. He says, good point. When you think aristocratic, actually, Valvena, do you have a mic? Do you want to call in? If you want to call in, let us know, and then we'll send you a link, and you can call in if you have if you want to join this thing directly. He says, good point. When you think aristocratic, which cutthroat aristocratic director comes to mind? Blue chip, wealthy type, you mean? Yes, privileged, but ruthless masculine with female finesse. This is a very easy question. Christopher Nolan, obviously. Because Christopher Nolan's favorite film.
Well,
listen, I'm not saying that. Yeah, okay, that's another. I know what you're going to. I'm just saying who's on paper suitable. He's essentially been making James Bond movies. That's essentially what he's been doing. Like, Inception is a James Bond film. High concept, but it's a James Bond movie. There's elements of James Bond in The Dark Knight. There's elements of it in Dark Knight Rises. There's just a particular style that he has. When Tenet comes out, it's going to be essentially James Bond. I think it's like an Inception sort of pseudo sequel anyway. So yeah, no, that is who I would think. He says Ridley Scott, not Ridley Scott, no way, not James Bond, no. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. Who's Remy? There's an actor called Remy in this new trailer. Who am I? Oh, Remy Malek. Okay, that's Rami Malek, not Remy. And again, look, if you see Rami Malek in the trailer, you don't really get a great idea of what he's doing or who he is or anything. So you can't really come to some grand conclusion from what he's going to be contributing.
He's got to do something new. He's got to do something new, because I don't know, it's just one of those things where obviously, like you said, he's not doing much in the trailer, but that one little slow turn look is reminding me of about 2 or 3 other Bond villains, and it's like, bro, you really got to do something new here.
I agree. No, listen, that is where I'm coming from, man. Because for me, the whole woman thing, I'm like, look, a lot of people were annoyed. I'm not going to be like biased because it's a black woman. I mean, that's fantastic. That's well and good, But I'm just like, me being honest, I feel like, look, James Bond had Casino Royale, okay, then Quantum of Solace, right, which we've already agreed wasn't the best. Then he disappears, comes back. We get Spectre, which to me I didn't really like, but it is what it is. Now we have a situation where he's been replaced. I question, and this is not even a gender thing. I just question that, does MI6 actually have female spies in the field? Not people who are like in the offices, but actually field operatives who are doing hand-to-hand combat or trained in hand-to-hand combat and weapons and all. I don't know. Like, I mean, that's something I would be interested in. So if anybody has information on that, I would actually be very interested. because I wouldn't think that would be something that they would have just because of the risks involved. But maybe I'm wrong, because I mean, I guess it's for the same reasons why you don't have as many regiments of female soldiers on the front lines. Um, I could be wrong. Maybe that it's very common, because I thought it was interesting. I'm like, my God, if, which is what's implied, but she may not be a 007. She could be a 006 or 00 something else. Like Sean Bean's character was 006 or something. If
I thought the agents were just 00 agents.
no, it depends on what you're. Yeah, so I think that Sean Bean was 006. He didn't have a license to kill.
Okay.
I think you have to specifically be 007. That's what makes it cool. Is that James Bond can literally just kill anybody he wants. Like, and without, he's never going to get tried or have to answer to it. He has a license to kill people. So like, he'll never go to court. You know when other people, they have to file a report and then do all of that. He doesn't have to do any of that. He's been which is quite crazy, obviously, but that's the idea, that he can literally shoot you in the head and walk away and never there is no paperwork.
Sounds good.
Say what?
Sounds good.
Yeah, well, not for you. So yeah, no, that was what I thought when I saw the thing. And then I saw her, and then I guess the thing that annoys people, and I can understand where they're coming from, is that I don't know if it's necessary to denigrate the lead character in order to integrate more women into the franchise. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure that it's necessary to, oh, he's old, his leg doesn't work. Why are you even here? You're a relic.
Listen, it's Ray all over again. It's Ray again, but she's black. So, but it's funny how you say that you don't really need to denigrate that former character, but how else would you do it?
Very easily. You just do it the way that it is when they usually bring a guy. Do you know how it is usually, not always, but often, when a new rookie guy comes up, what happens? He's a rookie who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And the whole dynamic.
We can't do that because we're in 2020 now.
No, I know. That's the point I'm trying to make, because your question was like, how else would you do it? And I'm like,
no, I mean, I know how to do it. I was just trying to.
Right. Because I just think, like, yo, this is crazy. How is it that every time you're introducing a new character, if the character happens to be a woman, she's already like better and amazing.
Yep.
And the guy that she's taking over from shouldn't even be there.
Yep.
And and I'm just like, what? Is that really? You don't have to do that. And in fact, you would ingratiate yourself more to the existing fan base if you at least pay some level of homage to the character that defined the franchise and is the reason why most people are fans. And the thing is that, what's funny? When you watch the movie, it's pretty much like what happened with Dark Fate. You see, I watched Dark Fate, right? Dark Fate was nowhere near as bad as I thought in that respect. Nowhere near. The issues with Dark Fates were numerous, but one of them was not to a great degree that there was this whole, that the lady that was the Terminator, the female Terminator.
Yeah.
They didn't go overboard with making her like, it wasn't Batwoman, the TV show, basically.
Okay.
So I watched it and I was like, this is actually, it didn't irritate me. Her performance was actually good. I think the issue that she had more was, the movie as a whole, but her performance was fine. Like, there was nothing, it was okay. So the point I'm making is that you could watch No Time to Die and it might actually be cool, in the sense that it's not as bad as you think. Like, they don't spend the whole movie trashing. Listen, it's unlikely, they probably will, but you might end up with a situation like that.
Like what?
Where, she does have those lines that we've seen in the trailer, and there is some jibes that she makes at him, but then he shows like you know what, as I'm talking, I actually don't think it's likely.
No, it can't be, because there's, again, you can verbally try and denigrate Bond, but there's no way, like once this guy gets into action in the film, all of that's going to be proven false. So I doubt that that's the case. I truly
Wait a
do.
minute, what's going to be proven false?
That he's no longer, needed, or he's useless, or
Mate,
he's old.
you never
That
know, man. Listen,
Wait a minute, you think even in the bad Bond films that we've just gone through, are you telling me, come on, this guy, he still had the physicality, he still
do
had
you know,
the style.
why? Do you know why? I'm going to tell you why.
Gone.
We've never had a James Bond in this era. And we've never had a James Bond where, when you read the articles are actually saying we are trying to bring James Bond into the modern era and to, push back against the his typical archetype. All of that. Listen, the articles are all out there to read. When you read
Well,
that, you realize that there's a lot of things that are probably going to happen in this movie that you've never seen before in a James Bond film. Like, as far as the character is concerned, things that they're going to make him do, things that are going to be done to him or said to him, or scenarios that are going to be put forward. I feel like it's going to push a lot of those kinds of boundaries, you know. So I don't think it's going to be just as straightforward. Um, as soon as he kicks into gear, everything's going to be cool. I don't think so.
okay.
You know. Anyway, look, that's that. Like I said, I'm not sure how well this thing is going to do because, me personally, the trailer didn't demand that I go and see it, but I'm not a James Bond fan, so I'm not the right person to be talking to. But when I saw this, the Spectre trailer was good. I remember that trailer. Skyfall trailer was good. I think the other two trailers, like, I've seen them, and I had a level of compulsion to go and watch the film because there was enough there that I was interested in. And I guess for me, which is why I said I was a bit underwhelmed, was I was like, well, what am I really going there to see? Like, what's the story? Like, what is it about this that makes it a unique enough experience that I'm looking forward to watching? Short of it, it's a James Bond movie, and there's a female agent. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I hear you, but I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. Black Widow. Have you seen that trailer?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'm muting you again. Go and see the Black Widow. All right. All right, guys. Okay, guys, let me put something. All right. Now, this is the question. So, guys, I want to talk about the Black Widow trailer, which I have seen, but I'm going to wait for Chosen One to come back. I think the key question that we're going to kick off this with is that, first of all, what did you think of the trailer? And is it too late for this movie? I mean, has the movie come out too late in the timeline, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because I saw the trailer, and to be honest, listen, like, I wasn't really a fan of the Black Widow character or Hawkeye, because I felt like these two characters shouldn't be anywhere near what's going. These are just two humans, regular people who are just like, how, when you're in a situation like that, they were actually limited in. I mean, obviously they did it anyway, where they were fighting aliens, but you're limited in what you can do against most of the people that the Avengers were fighting. So I always felt like these people are so ridiculously out of their depth being involved in. I mean, you've got Thor is in there, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America. These are all like genetically or technologically enhanced things or magical beings with two regular humans. It's ridiculous. So I always, from the get-go was like, I don't know, man. I mean, and that goes for both of them. Black Widow and Hawkeye, I felt shouldn't have been in the Avengers. I mean, am I crazy to think this, guys? I don't know. So I think from the get go, I personally didn't have that much of an impetus to see a Black Widow movie. I just I was like, yeah, whatever. Is it? Are there any questions I wanted to ask? Whatever. But I would say this: if you were going to make this film, I did feel there was a moment when there was a lot of buzz around, and I think it was really around that Civil War area because she was quite a pivotal character within the Civil War area and was also involved in, I believe, Winter Soldier. I believe. So at that point, I feel like they had to have made this film instead of Captain Marvel. Like, I feel like this was the female Marvel movie that needed to happen. Okay, let's see what. Too late and past. We'll catch it when it's for free and on television, like the guy playing her dad, though, or whoever that Russian in the red suits is. Okay, thanks, Valvena. I agree. Let me bring Chief Chosen is back. Have you seen it now, Chosen?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, man. Thoughts?
Yeah, this is a no-go. Look, there were some moments in that trailer. I think there were, again, it's just eye candy. Well, let me just ask you this: when does this take place? Like, when does this happen?
Exactly. That's the same, man. That's what I was talking to these guys about. I was like, I think it's just the time has passed when you would put this out. Like, I feel like this had to have happened straight after Civil War. That's when you make this movie, because that was when the Black Widow awareness was at its peak. And for me, Black Widow was the female Marvel movie to make if you are making one, not Captain Marvel. Like, Captain Marvel isn't a popular character in the comics. Like, it's not something that she doesn't have tons of fans and or just like I knew of Captain Marvel when I was growing up, but I'm like, I didn't know anybody who read that, you know? Black Widow, though, who isn't popular, you've made her popular through the movies. So because you've actually made this character popular from the films, I think it followed naturally that she's the one who you would have made the movie out of first. Or if you're picking one or the other, it would have been her. Or am I crazy?
I don't know about that. I think there are certain characters that you don't need a solo film for. Um, I don't know. And maybe I just don't know enough about the Black Widow character backstory to actually comment on it. But from what I've seen, I I don't know. That story looks paper thin to me. And I don't know why.
The
I
Black
mean, I
Widow
know
one?
why. Yes, yes.
You know what's interesting about that? It's like how much story can you really do with a character like that at that point in the narrative? You see what I'm saying? It's like you're joining her, you're creating a movie that's happening so deep into her experience with the Avengers that there's a lot of constraints for that. So, for example, if they had an origin story, where you were doing how she came to be, what she did, you then have a lot of leeway to pace the movie, to show particular aspects and whatever, and just sort of build a story. With this, it's like your stuff. The whole premise of it is based on her being on the run after Civil War, like when they'd had that rift, and you just have to think, it's like, okay, so where are you going to go with the narrative? I don't know. I mean, look, it's a good question. I mean, you tell me.
I don't know. I have no idea. And more importantly, I don't really have. Again, I don't really have incentive to try and figure it out. I don't. I just don't. I don't care that much, to be honest.
Yeah, you know what? You know what's funny, man? That's actually my feeling, man. I'm like, listen, if this movie had come out before, uh, what am I saying? Before Endgame, and basically, if it had come out at the right time, I still wouldn't have been down with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what my problem is. Like, I just was never really interested in knowing more about this character. Like, there was no point in it that I was like, you know what? I really, really want to know more um, about this person. It just never happened. So I think that is the problem that we're having now, is that how do you motivate the masses to come out and see a film that it's going to be really interesting? I think that's what I'm actually waiting for, is to find out um, what people are going to do, you know? Um, because I looked at the trailer and I mean, I wasn't sure, and I think there's an issue with a lot of trailers. I wasn't sure what the movie was about. I wasn't sure. I know that she's gone back to her hometown, right?
Yes.
That's all I could really get from it, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm just being stupid or something, but I couldn't get much more out of it than that.
I don't know if you need any more. It's just a Marvel film, so you're
Right.
just that's it. Yeah.
But you know what, man? And actually, in segue, Matrix. What are your thoughts about the fact that they're making a new Matrix movie?
I'm a little apprehensive about giving my knee-jerk reaction to that. And the
Okay.
knee-jerk reaction is, why are you doing this? There's no reason to. But because the last film was so complete, it makes me think that maybe they have some kind of story that they're going to tell, um, that may be worthwhile. So I'm reserving my judgment. I'm just waiting to see if I can piece together where they're going with this. I want to know more.
Right. Right. I mean, I would say, counter to that, I feel because of how things ended with Revolutions, I feel we do need another movie. I mean, I'll just be honest. Like, I feel like there is a necessity to get another film in there. I feel like it wasn't adequate to me. I don't think it was a fitting end to the Matrix to have Revolutions be that. Um, Look, as many people have said, like, I don't know if the Wachowskis actually have more story, which is probably why the final episode sort of turned out the way it did. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like a Matrix 4 is necessary. I feel like we need a better. I mean, look, do you know what I'm worried about? I'm worried that it's going to be another trilogy. I don't think that should happen. That's the worry for me, is that, oh, wait a minute, is there going to be a Matrix 4, 5, and 6? And if that's the case, I'm like, oh my God, that could ruin everything. I mean, like, really ruin everything. So I'm worried about that. Off topic, by the way, did you see that Andy Ruiz fight, Anthony Joshua?
No.
Okay, but did you see highlights or anything?
Nope.
Damn. Like you just don't want to see anything?
I'm kind of busy over here.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I wanted to ask you about that, but I know that that's confidential material. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, man. So listen, man, look, Keanu Reeves is resurgent. You know, the guy, his career is now back on the up and up. Everybody likes Keanu Reeves, you know. Um, he's got another franchise with John Wick. You know, I feel like Keanu Reeves is like a really blessed guy.
Hmm.
If you just look at his whole career, it's like this guy, this guy actually has multiple franchises. Like he has Bill and Ted's, which is extremely liked. Like I like Bill and Ted's. Like that's got a cult following, right? Then he has The Matrix, another cult following of gigantic proportions. Then he gets John Wick, another cult for. This guy has got three separate franchises where he is the driving force of them, with
Hmm.
each of them having. And then you have all these other little movies that he's done and everything, and you're just like, wow, I would have never, when he started out, believed that he'd still be around now. I wouldn't have ever imagined it. So it's incredible to me, you know. But yeah, anyway, final final topic. So let me even see what we're looking at here. Make sure I've covered everything. No, I think we have. I think that was it. You know. Yeah, man. So that's all we got. I don't know if do you have any other thoughts and ideas?
No, not on these topics. No.
Is there any other topic you want us to just touch
Oh, I
on?
thought you were going to talk about the Mandalorian. I thought
Yeah,
you
you
were
know
caught
what?
up.
You know what the problem is?
Hmm.
I haven't seen episode 5, man. I was trying to watch it.
Uh,
I couldn't see. But you know what we could talk about? Because you know the last time we spoke, I hadn't seen episode 4.
hmm. Oh
And
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
seen episode 4 now. And I talked about this in the last podcast. But you weren't on that, you know. But now I've seen it, and you were right. You were right.
Hmm.
You know. What was your analysis of it again?
Well, so 4 again. I think we've already talked about. Is it Gina? Is that her name? Um,
Gina Carano, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think that was just a bad casting overall. And it's funny how I think your position was, if you're going to get someone to exist in this world, the post Empire, you would get someone with the physicality like hers. But and I remember you saying that, and then I read an interview online where they actually didn't let her do her own stunts. So
Really?
if that's
Why?
the case, well, I assume insurance reasons. I mean, but obviously I'm not in there, so I don't know why. But um, if they didn't let her do her own stunts, and that's what she's complaining about, then that's even I'm going to even double down on that. That she definitely shouldn't be there.
So wait a minute,
Um,
she was complaining that they didn't let her do her stunts.
she says she wishes she would have. They would have let her do her own stunts. That's what was said.
Oh
No.
wow.
So but again, I was just all of the reasons that I think, or you tried to, throw out there as to why you would cast someone like this. Even talking tonight about the female Bond and what the women are doing in this latest James Bond trailer. That's better than anything I saw in The Mandalorian. So it's like, and they're not UFC fighters. So it's just I'm just really confused all the way around as far as why she's there. But there's that. And
You know
then
what? Also, there is also the look factor. You know, like I would give her, she, I would buy her more as a fighter or as a bounty hunter than I would buy the typical like Mila Jovovich. Mila Jovovich does not look any like How?
That's
Yeah,
that's
I know what you mean, but I'm just like, she is so far removed from anything I would ever expect to be some fighting super soldier, whatever. That, and same with Scarlett Johansson and all this thing. I wouldn't even imagine that. But Gina Carano, to me, because she's stockier, she actually has some muscle mass, you know, her face and everything. It's like, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm like, okay. And I think that's an important factor, in sort of why they cast that. Look, I listen, obviously, I'm sure you could find a proper actress who also has those qualities, in their look and everything, I'm sure. So yes, you're right. Listen, I didn't know that she didn't do her stunts. Like if that's true, I then have no idea why they, like, maybe for marketing, I guess.
Well, that's what it is. That has to be it. Everyone knows she's associated with UFC. So
Yeah, but
I
is
don't
that,
know.
I mean, but is she famous enough
I
for
don't
that
think
to be
so.
a,
I
a
didn't know. I didn't know who she was before this show. I don't know.
right? Well, I guess then that just proves the point then, right?
I think so.
That you have a situation whereby, look, if somebody isn't even uh that famous that to pull in the crowds, then what's the point? Anyway, look, you know what? The truth is this, right? I agree with a lot of the things that you said. I did, and I talked to Jody, who was on the show last time, at length about the fact that, look, you've built up a character who is so powerful and is the greatest bounty hunter that you've seen, and the first person that beats him is this lady on a planet, and then she says that he's got to leave the planet because she's already taken it, and he actually is about to leave. I mean, that's kind of crazy to me. I mean, I'm like, man, again, it goes back to what I said before, that I feel you could establish this character as a very strong character without diminishing what the Mandalorian is. Because Mandalorians as a tribe are supposed to be the epitome of bounty hunters. So in theory, if she's not a Mandalorian, like if she was a Mandalorian, then I could actually almost be like, oh, okay, fine. But if she isn't, which it didn't seem she was because she had no helmet, then are you kidding me? Like, who is this person? You know?
Mm.
Because if she's able to do that barehanded and this guy is using all his weapons to try and stop her, and she still meets him, messes him up, then in theory, she's one of the greatest bounty hunters in the galaxy. Right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Oh man. Anyway, man. All right, guys. That is the wrap of today's Sunday Talkback SmackDown that we've just done. We'll be doing this every Sunday, just as an overview of the week in review, so to speak. Till then, I am your host, the Merc, and with my co-hosts, chosen one. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll be back. And subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so that you'll be alerted as when the next broadcast is going to be on. If we do any during the week, any special reports or special bulletins, or if you want to be reminded of the Sunday one, definitely send that subscription, and we will see you the next time. Cheers.